Okay. It's only for the translator. Yeah. So I can keep it here, maybe.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? No, I had to hold it like that for you to hear me. I better if I hold. Okay, good. I will hold. No problem. This is radio.
It's for the առաջարկում եք կբերեք մի հատ։ You have. Ես ներկայացնում եմ հետազոտական ռեսուրսների կովկասյան կենտրոն Հայաստան հիմնադրամը եւ շատ երջանիկ եմ, որ այսօր մենք երկրորդ անգամ արդեն պատիվ ունենք հյուրընկալելու Արժույթի միջազգային հիմնադրամի նրա պրոֆեսիոնալ փորձառությունը շատ տպավորիչ է, նա երկար տարիներ եղել է ֆինանսների նախարարի խորհրդականը Իսպանիայում եւ չգիտեմ Իսպանիան երևի դրանից հետո ունեցել է տնտեսական եւ ֆինանսական բարգավաճում, հիմա քանի որ ինքը այնտեղ չի, մեր մոտ է, հուսանք որ ոնց որ ավելի շատացավ, այսինքն արձագանքեցիք այսօրվա պահանջներին։ Ես չեմ ուզենա շատ երկար ձեր մասին խոսել, ես հուսամ, որ դուք ինքներդ ինչ նպատակահարմար որ կհամարեք, ընդունեք իմ շնորհակալությունը ձեր կողմից այս հրավերքը ընդունելու համար, նաև ասեմ, որ երևելի կանայք, որ ներկայացնում են միջազգային հանրությունը Հայաստանում եւ
event closer to home, and then a little bit of Armenia, and some ideas about the medium term. So this is basically the 3 blocks of ideas that are going to be discussing today with you. First of all, quick overview what is going on in the world according to our perspective, and also a little bit of explaining to you how we do this exercise. That is a very difficult one. Then we will look at Armenia outlook, how we see Armenia going, challenges, risks, etc. And then medium-term policy priorities. What we believe should be the focus moving forward. Okay, so as regards the global economy, this is a table that summarizes how we see the world right now. These are apparently only a bunch of numbers, but getting into this table is a major exercise that is conducted by the IMF because it's our mandate, it's our responsibility. But it's a very difficult exercise, and even there are a lot of assumptions and there are a lot of people thinking about this projection all the time. It's difficult to put this type of vision together, but I think it's the best of the picture about the global economy available right now. How we see the global economy now is that after one of the major global crises, because at the beginning of the year we thought that number could be closer to 3.7, 3.8. Remember that the global economy, the world economy in the past, before the crisis, was able to grow by 4-5%. So we are still below what the potential could be for the world, no? And this is a type of disappointment, no, for everybody. And the other characteristic that we can see in this table is that it's not only that the global economy is not recovering that strongly, it's also that the pace of recovering is very uneven. So there are countries or certain areas that are doing more or less okay. There are others that, however, are in trouble. So this kind of different speed is another concern, because that made the whole picture more complicated, in terms of the assessment of the problems and the policy recommendation. So what is going on, you see here, is that the US is picking up, but still at 2.2 for 2014 is not a growth rate for the US economy. That is a tax factory first of all for the Americans, but also for the world, because the US economy is a major engine, for the rest of the world. It's the largest economy. So, but at least it's picking up, something that is good news. And actually we see 2015 as a year that could make a difference and going to close to 3%. However, the euro area, still we believe that there are some good news there, but it's really very below what the euro area should do. And this is bad news for countries that are trading with the European Union a lot, like Armenia, but many other countries as well. Growth is sluggish in there, and this is another major concern. The other block that is very important is what we call emerging markets. And this is a very heterogeneous group of countries, includes from China to Russia to South Africa, Turkey, India, etc. They are, as a whole, they are not that important yet, but they are emerging. They have a lot of strength.
Շատ կարևոր է հետևել, թե ինչ է տեղի ունենում այդ երկրներում, զարգացող տնտեսությունները որպես մի ընդհանուր ցուցանիշը, իհարկե Եվրոպա հարաբերական է, կախված նրանից, թե որտերը նախկինում, կարող են արձանագրել, որ սա ևս ավելի ցածր է, քան նրանց նախկին ամեն ինչ կամ Եվրոպա ստեղծան իրենց ապացող տնտեսությունները վաճառում են հենց Եվրագոտու երկրներին և ամեն ինչ ձևավորվող տնտեսությունները վերջին 2 տարիների ընթացքում որոշակի առումով դանդաղ կառուցվածքային գործարար միջավայրի օրենքի իշխանության հետ, ուստի օրենքի դերակայության հետ, ուստի որոշակի ներքին խոչընդոտներով պայմանավորված նրանց տնտեսական աճը չի եղել այնպիսին, ինչպես կարող է լինել։ Չինաստանի և Ռուսաստանի պարագայում և տարածաշրջանի համար դրանք կարևոր երկրներ են, փորձենք մի փոքր ավելի հանգամանորեն անդրադառնալ այս երկրներին։ Չինաստանը, ինչպես կարող եք տեսնել, դեռևս
հայտնի երկիր է, մի շարք է ուղեկցվում, որոնց մենք ուշի-ուշով մոնիտորինգի ենք ենթարկում, իհարկե դինամիկայի առումով պահպանվում է, սակայն այդ դինամիկայի որոշ մասը պայմանավորված է անշարժ գույքի շուկայով, շինարարությամբ, ներդրումների վերելքով, սակայն սա ևս կարող է ռիսկային լինել, որովհետև կարող է հանկարծակի ընդհատվել և դինամիկայի ընդհատում տեղի ունենալ, որն էլ հետևանքներ կունենա բոլորի համար աշխարհում, որովհետև Չինաստանը խոշոր է դառնում։ Ուստի այստեղ ևս որոշակի մտավախություններ կան, մյուս կարևոր երկիրը Ռուսաստանն է, հատկապես այս տարածաշրջանի համար և նաև Եվրամիության համար, որովհետև Եվրամիության և Ռուսաստանի միջև զգալի առևտրային կապեր կան և Ռուսաստանը 2013 թվականին արդեն իսկ լավ տարի չէր ցուցանիշների առումով և Ռուսաստանում տնտեսական աճի դանդաղում է տեղի ունենում վերջին մի քանի տարիների ընթացքում և մեր կարծիքով դա կապված է գործող միջավայրի տնտեսության, որը չափազանց կենտրոնանում է նաև նավթի, գազի, ածխաջրածային ապրանքների վրա, կառավարման հետ կապված որոշակի խնդիրներ կան, կարող ենք ցանկը շարունակել Հաշվի առնելով այն հանգամանքը, որ տնտեսական աճը դանդաղում է, 2014-15 թվականներին գրեթե հավասարվում է 0-ի այդ աճը, որովհետև լրացուցիչ աշխարհաքաղաքական պայմաններով հետևանքով լրացուցիչ ազդեցություններ են առաջանում։ Այսպիսին է մոտավորապես պատկերը և վերջում ես ավելացրել եմ Հայաստանի վերաբերյալ սյունյակը։ Իհարկե ավելի ուշ մենք Հայաստանի մասին ավելի հանգամանորեն կխոսենք, սակայն այս բոլոր իրադարձությունները, որոնք տեղի են ունենում աշխարհում, դրա ազդեցությունը նաև Հայաստանն է զգում, ինչպես այս տարածաշրջանի մյուս երկրները, ինչպես նաև այլ տարածաշրջանների երկրները, 2013 թվականը այն տարին էր, որը վատ տարի չէր, Հայաստանին հաջողվեց 3.5% աճ արձանագրել, սակայն այս տարի նկատում ենք, որ որոշակի դժվարություններ են առաջացել, դրանք կապված են այն զարգացումների հետ, որոնք բխում են նաև այլ երկրներից, հատկապես Ռուսաստանի տնտեսական աճի դանդաղումից եւ Եվրամիության տնտեսական աճի դանդաղումից, որը իրազեկությունն է ունենում Հայաստանի վրա, իհարկե կան նաև ներքին գործոններ, որոնք ավելի մանրամասնորեն կներկայացնեմ ավելի ուշ, կան որոշակի դժվարություններ, որոնք կապված են բյուջեի կատարման եւ հատկապես կապիտալ ծրագրերի իրականացման հետ, որն էլ անբարենպաստ արտաքին գործոնները համակցում է ներքին անբարենպաստ գործոնների հետ։ Տնտեսությունը մենք նկատում ենք, որ կարող է աճել 3%-ից ցածր ցուցանիշով։ Այնուհետև մենք նկատում ենք, որ տնտեսությունը կարող է 3.5% աճ արձանագրել, եթե որոշակի քաղաքականություններ իրականացվեն, որոնց մասին խոսում ենք նաև մեր այսօրվա զեկուցման մեջ, այսպիսին է համաշխարհային պատկերը։ Նախորդ նկարագրության ժամանակ նկարագրեցի նաև նվազման ուղղությամբ որոշ ռիսկերը։ Կուզեին ավելի հանգամանորեն խոսել նրանց մասին, երբ որ մենք մեր տեսլական ենք ներկայացնում, մենք պիտի նաև որոշակի ցուցանիշներով այն հիմնավորենք, որովհետև հաճախ մեզնից հարցեր են տալիս, թե Հայաստանի մասին, օրինակ Չինաստանի մասին մենք ինչ ենք մտածում, մենք պիտի միջնաժամկետ ցուցանիշներ ներկայացնենք, բայց նաև մենք պիտի կարողանանք ցույց տալ, թե ինչպիսի ռիսկեր կան, որ այդ ցուցանիշները հնարավոր է նվազեն կամ աճեն։ Եթե տեղի ունենա այս երևույթը, ապա աճը կարող է նվազել, եթե ունենա մեկ ուրիշ երևույթ, աճը կարող է նվազել կամ աճել։ Այսինքն մենք այսօր տեսնում ենք, որ կանխատեսումները, որ մենք կազմել ենք, ավելի շատ ունեն նվազման ուղղությամբ ռիսկեր, ցավոք։ Որոշ բաներ, երբ որ տեղի են ունենում, որոշակի ռիսկեր նյութականանում են, դրա հենց հետևանքով հնարավոր են ավելի անբարենպաստ արդյունքներ, ինչն էլ հիմնական պատճառն է։ Նվազման ուղղությամբ ռիսկերը առանձնացնում ենք 4 խմբի։ Առաջինը խոսում ենք աշխարհակաղակական ռիսկերի մասին։ Ինչ են այս տարածաշրջանում, հատկապես հետ կապված եւ որոշակի դժկամություն կանացնելու բարեփոխումներ։ Լատինամերիկյան երկրներում, Հայաստանում այսպիսի կարծես պահանջարկի նվազում կա երկրներ, զարգացած երկրներից եւ երրորդի կապված հարցը, ինչպես հավանաբար կհիշեք, ԱՄՆ-ն, ինչպես նախկինում եմ ասել, ԱՄՆ-ն մի փոքր արագ է ավելի աճում, այնուհետև ԱՄՆ-ն անցում է տերմին է, սա նշանակում է, որ ԱՄՆ-ն ճգնաժամի ժամանակ ներարկել է տնտեսության մեջ զգալի ծավալի ԱՄՆ դոլար, ինչպես ցունամի ներարկել է տնտեսության մեջ, որպեսզի կարողանա դիմագրավել ցնցումներին, իսկ հիմա արդեն հետ է վերադառնում եւ Ֆեդ ռեզերվը, որը ըստ էության ԱՄՆ-ի կենտրոնական բանկն է, աստիճանաբար սկսում է եւ դա իհարկե անում է զգուշությամբ տոկոսադրույքի վրա ազդեցություն է ունենում, որովհետև աստիճանաբար սկսում է պակասել համաշխարհային տնտեսության մեջ ԱՄՆ դոլարի քանակը, տոկոսադրույքները կբարձրանան, հատկապես ԱՄՆ-ում եւ տնտեսություններ, որոնց անհրաժեշտ է արտասահմանից փոխառություններ կատարել, որովհետև դրանք չունեն ներքին խնայողությունների բարձր ծավալ եւ դա իհարկե առաջացնում է որոշակի ֆինանսական սահմանափակումներ, որովհետեւ նրանք կարողանան հանրապետությունից Ռուսաստանից կատարել փոխառություններ, դժվարություններ է ստեղծում։ Սա իհարկե նվազման ուղղությամբ ռիսկերից է։ Մյուս հարցը, որի մասին արդեն իսկ խոսեցի, կվող ժամանակաշրջանը, որովհետև զարգացող տնտեսությունները ճգնաժամից հետո կարծես թե հայտնվել են տնտեսական աճի չափավորման փուլում եւ ավելի դինամիկ այնպես երկրներում ինչպիսին օրինակ Գերմանիան է, այնպիսի իրավիճակում են հայտնվել, երբ որ տնտեսության աճը բավականին թույլ է, ինչը ազդեցություն
այն երկրները, որոնք
Ջիվապրանքներ են մատուցում ձևավորվող տնտեսություններն են։
To get not only the US, Canada, other countries to get all, and even the European Union, they are kind of slowing down. So we have two factors: more supply, less demand, oil prices going down, and then we see some kind of increasing because we see that the growth coming back. But you see that this kind of bands that we put there in the chart is like how the projection could move. So there is a lot of uncertainty, unfortunately, about that. But the main message is that low oil prices is good news, but also a sign of weak global economy. Okay, so this is kind of brief overview about what is going on in the world. So now let's see what happened in the region and in Armenia, and then let's focus also on what are the policies that we had to do to try to handle all of these problems and to help the Armenian economy to kind of overcome these problems. The region that we consider in our analysis of Armenia is what we call the Caucasus and Central Asia. This is the map of countries. It's a very heterogeneous group of countries, and we have to separate them in two groups. We always do that from the analytical purposes. Why? Because some countries oil and gas, and there are different type of considerations. So we will be looking at all of these countries in general, and then I will make a specific consideration for Armenia. And then we will do, at the time of doing this exercise, I will look at different indicators, growth, inflation, the fiscal deficits, everything. We'll look at all of the elements, and to see how what is common Armenia has with other countries, why Armenia also is different sometimes. No? So what is going on in the region is that, unfortunately, growth is slowing as well as in Russia and as well as in the European Union. So this is, I think you can see that in the chart. In the chart that you have here on the left-hand side, you have seen in blue is the color that I'm going to use to picture the CCA countries that are exported, and the red is always like an average for the importing. No? So you will see that it's going down. But look at what happened with Russia. Russia is going down a lot. So the picture here on aggregate level is that growth is slowing in the region, in the two groups, but it's not slowing that much, and it still is around 5.5%. So it's good news. Growth still here is not that bad. The bad news is that 1 year ago, we have a much optimistic projection for this region. We were thinking about 6.6. Last year when we made the presentation, that was the number that we had. So now we have still a kind of robust growth for the region, but lower than dragging growth down. In the case of Armenia, for Armenia, I'm going to use this pomegranate color. I think I like it very much. So this is Armenia. You see the European Union and Russia for a kind of long period. You see how Armenia growth, this is the growth rate of GDP, how follow the growth in Russia and the growth in the European Union. This is the crisis, when everything goes down. Then Armenia recovered very nicely. No, I think that after the crisis, and then it's stabilizing, still about others, but you see that is being affected by this type of slowdown in the two major trading blocks. And why this is happening? Well, this is happening first of all because of the linkages with this other trading bloc. one of those is the European Union, but the other one is Russia. And I'm going to focus here in Russia because it's a little bit more worrisome than others. So here what we see is that Armenia, as the same as other countries in the region, they have very strong linkages with Russia. This chart here, with this red, yellow, and green color, is what we call a heat map. We love this kind of maps, economists. We have this kind of... I think it's very interesting, heat map. Yeah, it's heat because it goes from red, very, very hot, to green, it's not that hot. No? So the red cells indicate certain... yeah, exactly. The linkage with Russia is very strong. So you will see that for Armenia, that is the first country, ARM, that's the acronym that we foreign direct investment, FDI. They, as when you put together the whole thing, represents more than 10% of GDP. As you know, remittances in Armenia are around 10% of GDP. And also they are very, very strong from Russia. No? That's flows coming from Russia. So imports, remittances, FDI are coming from Russia or going to Russia are very important. Other countries like Kyrgyz Republic and Tajikistan as well, in the case of imports and remittances. As you can see, the oil exporting countries that are on the bottom, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, they are not that much related to Russia. Why? Because they have oil, they have gas, they are exporting, so they don't need to get that connected. But the countries that are more dependent, they, especially on the energy level, but also other, they are depending on Russia a lot. This is the case of Turkmenistan here. This is the red one is because Turkmenistan is selling some oil to Russia, but it's a kind of a very specific case. So what happened, the reading of this chart is that Armenia is very exposed to Russia, for historical reason, because they are having trading with Russia for a long time. There are a lot of Armenians working there. And then because of that, when things slow down in Russia, there is an impact on Armenia. And then the other chart is a little bit of a summary of kind of an exercise that we conducted with the team in Washington to try to estimate what will be the impact if tomorrow there is a reduction in the growth rate of Russia by 1%. This kind of rule of thumb, no? So we did this exercise for the oil exporter and for the oil importer. So and then you can see that if we have a certain growth rate from Russia, let's assume 1%, no? This is the projection. If we change the projection to 0, or in reality that number will be 0.3% percentage point. That would mean that they will need to change exactly from 3 to 2.7, 0.3. However, for the oil importers, and one of those countries is Armenia, this is an average, the impact will be much larger, like a 0.7, meaning that when there is a correction in the growth rate of Russia, automatically, on average, the growth rate of those countries is corrected by 0.7. 0.7 is a large number, it's almost 1. So the impact is important, and this is a concern. The channel, you can see there, different color, are basically trade, remittances, the red one, and the green one is the risk aversion. When the risk aversion increase, and there is Russia has an increase in the premium, in the cost that Russia to borrow money in the markets, then there is an impact also on growth, and then on the countries that depends on Russia. So this is what happened as regards growth, but what happened as regards inflation? Inflation is a very important variable. When inflation is too high or too volatile, this is the worst for the result, especially for the more vulnerable. It's the worst tax on everybody, especially on the poor. So inflation is, although growth is slowing down, that inflation is increasing in almost all of the CCA countries except in Armenia, which is very interesting and is very good news, no food and etc. So inflation has certain peaks. You remember the increase in the food price in 2008-9, the increase in the energy price that took place in 2013. There are some peaks, but then inflation goes down again. So inflation expectations are, we say in our language, they are anchored. So there are increases, people understand the pressure, but they understand that it's temporary and inflation goes down. Actually now, in October was 2.2. That is a very good reading for inflation in Armenia. This is a very, very important development and very different from what other countries are doing. And what happened with the fiscal? The fiscal budget is a very important indicator that we also have to look at it. And let's see what happened in the region and what happened in a comfortable situation, what is worrisome. But let's focus on the oil importing country, that Armenia. What happened there is that there was some consolidation. Here you cannot see the whole thing because in 2009 there was an increase in the deficit, but there was some consolidation that continued to 2012, and now the deficit is around 2%. It's kind of stabilizing. Stabilizing is good, but it's stabilizing at the level that still is not comfortable. No, so the country will need to make a little bit more effort. But what happened in Armenia? Armenia is kind of outlier. We say, no, kind of special case. Why? Look at what happened in Armenia. Here in this chart we have a lot of bars, but let me see if I can explain. On the superior part in green we have the capital budget of the kind of reddish. We have the whatever happened at the end in the deficit. And look at what happened. There was a huge expansion in the deficit in 2009. That was the right thing to do because there was a crisis. So boom, the deficit has to increase to absorb that shock. And then there was a very important consolidation. No? So that was very good. However, in the last few years, what we have seen is that Armenia has continued to kind of consolidating in terms of the projected deficit, but the actual deficit, that is the green, the kind of red part, the darker, is always below the deficit. Why? Because the capital budget has not been executed as it should, for many reasons, and we can discuss that later. And it's nobody to blame. It's a very constellation of problems, and then we are working on that with the. But this is. I mean, it's that the fiscal deficit is low, financial constraints are low. Armenia is in a good position, but it's also bad because this capital project need to be implemented to support growth, to support job creation, and to support growth rate. And what is going on is that remittances, they have a very good growth rate in 2010 and 2011 for many reasons, probably also because of the Russian economy, the Olympic game in Sochi, I don't know, many reasons. And these remittances grew a lot, 2 digits. Usually were like between 15-20%, no? This is this part. However, now they are continue to grow, but the growth has slowed a lot. So now we have the remittances continue to arrive to Armenia, but in the amount is slowing down the growth. So this is something to watch up. And the same with export. Export also, there was like a boom in the 10th and 11th, probably related also to mining projects, specific issues. Now, as export are growing, it's not like they are completely stopped, but they are growing at much more moderate rates, around 5%. So this is something that we have to watch up and to work to kind of resuscitate that. No, that will be important. So as a result of this kind of development in the external sector, what is happening is that, and especially in other countries, not necessarily in Armenia, is that the buffers provided by international reserves are shrinking. What does that mean? That means that the international reserves that the central banks, they have in the balance sheet, and they can use to kind of confront international shocks, are like getting a little bit under pressure. This depends also on countries. So we have in this part of the slide, we have the blue. These are the exporting countries. They have a lot of reserve. The central bank of, Kazakhstan, they have a lot of reserve. But look at what happened, that the reserve, we measure the reserve as the number of months of imports that the central bank could serve in a hypothetical case that there is a completely stop in the supply of dollar to the economy. No? So we measure that as months of import. This is a measure that we use at the IMF a lot. We believe that countries are in a good position when this number is 3, meaning the central bank has at least dollar to supply to importers importing for 3 months. No? In an hypothetical case that there is no any kind of inflows of US dollar. Look, the exporting country after the crisis, and basically, I mean, also, I mean, encouraged by us, I have to say, of the IMF, is an indicator that we always look at very carefully, and also because of the support of many international organizations and so on and so forth, Armenia managed to have this level around between 4 and 5. It's hovering, fluctuating depending on the year, but it's around 4 and 5% of month of import. So we believe it's about what is considered the threshold, but still is something that the US dollar has been increasing, and especially this year after the summer, basically, no? And then what happened is that you could see the drums vis-a-vis the US dollar has to follow as well to adjust to this shock is also moving in that directions. And then, I mean, this is not a specific phenomenon to Armenia. All of the currency in the world in different type of magnitude are depreciating because what happened in Russia, but also because what happened in other part of the world, especially in the US. The dollar is getting very strong. The dollar is hitting, the Turkey lira is depreciating, the pound is depreciating, everybody. So what we see here in this chart, the one that is on the other side, is this is an index. No, this first chart is the exchange rate. The other one is an index that is 100 in the beginning of November. So you can see that Russia going up, meaning that the value of ruble vis-a-vis $1 is increasing vis-a-vis the beginning of the month. And almost all of the currency with different type of fluctuation are also following suit. No? So you see the euro has a lot of fluctuation, but also is also depreciating vis-a-vis the dollar. The red one is the Armenian dram, and the blue one, or violet, is the lari in Georgia, also is adjusting. So this is a kind of a phenomenon that is taking place now in the world. And then to finalize with this block of the presentation, the risk with this type of development, or I would say the concern, is what is going on the banking system. The banking system of countries is a sector that is always exposed to this type of shock, and when things go wrong in the financial sector, there are major spillover to the real economy. That's why it's important to have a look at what is going on there. The major risk in this region, you look at the whole picture, is dollarization. I mean, this is something that we know. Here you have a chart. I think it's very interesting that you have the percentage of deposits in the banking system that are in US dollar and the loan. So these are the two way of measuring dollarization. No? So, and then you can see the different countries in the world. You can see Armenia, Georgia, and also Latin America, LAC, Brazil. For instance, Brazil is no dollarized. No, so different countries have different type of dollarization. Most of our countries, or the regional countries, and especially Armenia, are on the top, meaning that almost 70% of the loans in the banking system are denominating in US dollar, the same as deposit. What does that mean? That means that there is a possibility of mismatch, the people that have to pay a debt in dirham when the loan is in US dollar, or the other way around, no? And then this is something that is a challenge, no, for the banking system. The good news in the case of Armenia is that, I mean, this is something that we know. So then there is a very strong supervision by the central bank, and there is a lot of safeguards. No? So they are in position on banks on what are the safeguards, the liquidity ratio, and other type of levels of compliance with certain, the open position, for instance, of banks, no? How much US dollar they can have on the asset and the liability side. All of these constraints that we call macroprudential regulations are kind of minimizing these risks. No? It's like making the banking system more like safer. Okay, so now that we have this kind of broad picture of the Armenian economy, and I think I'm doing okay in the presentation. So let's take a stop of giving all of the challenges what we believe should be the policy priorities for Armenia. No? So I'm sorry that I'm coming here only to tell you about problems, risks, vulnerabilities, but I'm sorry, but this is part of my job. But then the good news is that, okay, there are problems, the situation is challenging, not only for Armenia, for many other countries, but there are policies that we can put together to navigate these difficult times. What are these policies? Well, first of all, we have the fiscal, the budget. No? So the first thing is that because growth is slowing down, for reasons that are sometimes are not, it's no Armenian fault, it's happening outside. So something that we can do, and the authorities are doing now, is to have a temp down. No? So then we have this pause in the consolidation, because Armenia has the support of a lot of international organizations. Armenia issued Euro 2013, so the financial constraint is not there. There is a space to spend. So pause and space to spend, as long as this is put together in a kind of medium-term strategy. You know? So this is a pause, but then as soon as things get better, the idea is to go back to the consolidation. But the other point that's very important, and I'm going to make a huge emphasis on that, is strengthening the execution of the budget, especially on the capital project, but in everything. So there is a budget, there are a lot of projects, good projects, with the support of financial organizations, international financial organizations, needs to be executed on time. And there are many problems, legal, technical, capacity, you name it, and to fix them and to get, to expand what is in the budget. No? And that would be a very good push to the economy. Then on the monetary and exchange rate policy, what we can do that? What we can do there? Well, because inflation is low, but it's very good, provide a very good favorable environment, and the fiscal, I don't have problem in the fiscal. I don't have a budget that is kind of constrained. So the monetary policy can remain neutral, meaning that the monetary policy can remain like providing cheap financing to the banking system. This is why, as you may remember, the central bank has been reducing the policy rate in the last few months, no? Meaning that there is no constraint on that respect. Now the policy rate, I think, is 6 point something, no? 6 point something like that, no? Yeah, has been reduced, so no constraint, no need to tight the monetary policy to reduce this type of access to liquidity from the banking system. And the other element that is very important in monetary and the external policy is the exchange rate. As I explained before, because things are changing in the international environment, it's important that Armenia use the exchange rate as a policy tool. So that means that if the ruble per dollar depreciate, and that means that the people that send money to Armenia in rubles, they get less money in dollar, then you have to help them by increasing the amount of equivalent in drams by allowing this exchange rate to work as a buffer. No? So that's the way it operates. That's what we call exchange rate flexibility. In order to maintain the purchasing power of the remittances, as an example. The other thing is for exporter. Exporter also, when there is this kind of big changing in the exchange rate in other countries, your trading partner, there is a kind of adjustment in other prices in order for exporter to continue operating. Could be also some impact on imports, meaning that, if there is some increase in the price of some imports, especially food, maybe the people are going to start buying more Armenian food, what is, by the way, is delicious. So I will do that. So when all of these prices have to change, then the exchange rate can help to mitigate this shock. And this is what we call to protect remittances, purchasing power, and export and growth. And then financial, that's the other element, tool that the authorities, the government has, that is strengthening the banking supervision. These macroprudential that I mentioned before are very important. The regulation to reduce NPL. NPL is the non-performing loans. When the economy slows down and growth goes down, there is a risk that some people may be underwater and they may not be able to pay back their loans. So you have to work together to refinance these loans, to assess what is going on there, and to allow for this problem to be handled by the banking system. And then reduce dollarization to financial deepening. What that means, increasing the confidence in this case in local currency, in drams, to avoid all of this problem of mismatches with the exchange rate and so on and so forth. This is a very important point, and I mean, Armenia is very dollarized, but I worked before in other dollarized countries, in Latin America, even higher than here, and it's something that takes time, but it will happen naturally when people realize that, well, depending on who you are and which side of the equation you are, it's not necessary that you are safe by being in certain currency. You can also make a lot of money or do good business when you are on the other currency, but it takes a little bit of time to do that. Okay, so then I think that this is the kind of two main blocks that I wanted to present in terms of global economy and in terms of Armenia. Now I have a kind of short block at the end, maybe 10 minutes, and then I stop for the question. That this is an idea that I think is important because now there's a lot of concern at the fund in general. There are implications for Armenia, but for other countries, no? And the concern is the following: we are now in a situation where the growth is slow, and this is not cyclical anymore. It seems to be that it's going to be here with us for a while. No, it's what our managing director, Madame Lagarde, she has been speaking about that, like a moderate growth in the world. And this is a concern because when that happens, it's also related to expectations, and then it's implied that maybe there are a lot of missed opportunities, and that could impact the potential to grow in countries for many reasons. No, like people decided not to study. Like why? You're not going to get the job, so people quit their investment that people don't want to make because growth is not there. So this is a concern that this could translate into what we call a reduction in the potential to grow in the world in general. And this is a concern that we had to work together to overcome. And how we see that? We see that because at the fund, when we put together these exercises that I explained at the beginning, we always calculate also what we call the potential GDP growth for different countries, no? Because at some point, a country may be below potential for whatever reason, but the idea is for that country to go to its potential, no? So the potential GDP growth is something that we have been revising downward in the last few years a lot, no? And this is a concern, you know, especially look at what happened here. These bars in the chart, different colors represent different estimates of potential GDP for different vintages, no? For the 2003, 2007, 2008, 2014, 2015, 2019. Because the potential GDP growth is something that we project for a medium term, no? It's like a path that countries should follow, no? So what happened is that we have been systematically in the last few years cutting down this potential, no? Everywhere in the world. No, it's not like specific to this. And actually, in some countries, the potential is very low, no? Look at Latin America, no? But the message here for Armenia, for this region, is that the potential is very high, or we thought was very high in the CCA exporting and the CCI importing, and the cutting in the potential is being much more like dramatic than in other parts of the world. Why? Because, well, we will see that. We believe that there are reforms that are not taking place, there are certain modernization that is not taking place, or the other way of looking at that, this economy remains still not very complex, not very diversified. This is what the other charts try to show. It's it's a kind of weird chart. Let me try to explain. This is an index of complexity of the economy that is computed by the Harvard University. It's a kind of index of how diverse and complex our economy. Economies are going to be more complex if they have more diversified structure, if they have a higher education for the population. They combine many factors. And then what happens is that you can see it's an index that goes from -3 to 3, and then most of the CCA countries are in the negative part. No, I mean, say, Armenia is not that negative, but it's still low. No, the idea would be to be close to 3. No, so anyway, so what I'm saying is that this potential is because countries in this region are not getting that complex. Complexity also comes with trade, comes with getting a lot of more foreign direct investor coming, tourism, etc. No? So this is a concern that we had to put in the agenda. And the other concern is that it's not only that potential GDP, maybe we are cutting it off, but also that growth, when it happened, because growth happens, so it's not, has not been that inclusive. This is another word that we are now using a lot to express this concern. What I mean inclusive is that growth, 5%, 3%, whatever, is kind of is enjoyed by as many people as possible. The small and medium enterprises, the big enterprises, the workers, the professionals, everybody, as the people living in the village, the people living in Yerevan. No? This is what we call inclusive, because when growth is inclusive, is sustainable, because that gets more support, political support. And then when you want to put together new reform for the future, you can show that it's including everybody. So this inclusiveness is something that worries us, and we have to put that on our work agenda as well. And then how we measure lack of inclusiveness here? We have some index like the Gini, that is it's very standard index. You may be familiar with it. That measure inequality in the society. We look at inequality in different way. Income, that is the Gini in red, and the blue is the inequality in land, property or land. That's also it's important in certain countries where there are a lot of rural population and there are a lot of agriculture. We can see that in this case, CCA is there's inequality. It's not the region with the largest inequality. Look at, for instance, Latin America. No, but still is high. So this is something to be concerned about. But also the other way of looking at a lack of inclusiveness is unemployment. Unemployment also is high in the CCA countries, even higher than in other regions, and especially focus on the youth. And this is also important because the youth are the ones that are generating the potential GDP for the future. So that's why it's important to look at this indicator. And then why we believe this is happening? Well, there are many reasons. The crisis, there are many factors, but one factor that we believe is that, and this is not only for this region, also affect to other emerging markets, is that there have been less reform that originally envisaged or originally projected. And this is the kind, sometimes in this presentation, as you can see, I take indicator measured or computed by others. This is an indicator of structural reforms, an index. This is computed by the EBRD. They do that for this region. And they did that for 2010 and they did that for 2013. So we had 2 years to compare. So then they assign a number to different countries depending on the progress on structural reforms. It's a combination of many different indexes. So like doing business, there are many. So then when it's very interesting to see 2010 and 2013 because what we see is that, the oil exporter, the progress is lower than the oil importer. That's also the first thing that is interesting, because when you have a lot of money, countries are not incentivized to do reform. Mm-hmm. But also, the other thing is that, look at this, 2013 look like a little bit, it's not like but a little bit lower than 2010, and this is not good news. It should have been the other way around, 2013 should have been much higher. So maybe some reforms has not been implemented. There was a lot of ambition there, and that has not been materialized. And it's one of the reasons of the lack of inclusiveness in growth. And so the conclusion here, and this is the message, is that we need a new economic model, not only for Armenia, for the region. A new economic model meaning we have to do things in a different way to the way we have been doing things so far. And then the elements are growth has to be, this is a model that has to have or has to produce growth as high as possible, but as sustainable as possible. It doesn't make sense to grow a lot one year and then next year going to zero. Not sustainable, whatever, hopefully around the potential. Has to be diverse. Doesn't make sense only to have mining or only tourism, but as diverse as possible. Why? Because when things go wrong in one sector, the economy has another sector to kind of balance. So diversity is important. And then inclusive, like everybody can take part in whatever. No, this is very complicated, I know, but we have to try. No, and so then to try. What we put together here is like what we believe at the medium-term policy priority for Armenia. This is not, I'm not exhausting here all of the things that Armenia should do for the medium term. There are many other reforms. Here I'm going to talk about the priority that we see from our agenda with Armenia. But this is a collective effort. There are other entities, other international organizations that are focusing on other aspects. But the first block is bolder structural reforms, meaning decisive, implemented structural reform with impact. They should cover everything: education, health, public services, everything. What we focus, because certain distribution of labor, with other international organizations, we focus on reforms that promote growth and improve governance in the country. So we have a very strong focus on tax administration. Why? Because we believe the budget needs resources to implement good policies, spending policy. Tax administration also to facilitate transparency, to make life kind of easier for the taxpayer. So there are many components there. Business climate. Here we have different measures, actions on inspections, competitions, open sky policy, something that we have been fighting a lot because the country needs to be more connected with the world. Energy is a critical element. The country needs a medium-term strategy to provide energy in a way that is sustainable and efficient. This is important for this potential GDP and for people to make business looking at that energy is not going to be a problem in the next 5 years, etc. Financial sector always that is sound, but also a financial sector that includes everybody, access to finance, the opportunity for everybody to get a loan for a start a business, connectivity, regulation, and etc. So these are the kind of areas in which we focus. Then another area in which we work and we encourage the authority is to have an integration with the world. Armenia needs to get better integrated with the world. This is critical to do this diversification that I mentioned before, to get an economy that is more complex. And that has to be done in which way? All of the regional opportunity, multilateral opportunity, and has to be explored by Armenia. And on the other hand, the other elements in which we work a lot is that these policies that I mentioned before has to be implemented in policy framework that are strong. What do I mean in policy framework? Meaning that the rule that the authorities follow to make decisions. And then we have on the fiscal, transparency, medium-term expenditure framework that are clear. Armenia has this tool, but could be improved. Program budgeting, there are also work on that. But I mean program budgeting, that when you have a spending program, you know what this money is for, and you can measure some kind of results at some point. This is critical for the people to understand what the government is doing with my money, So this is areas in which we are working with the authority as well. Monetary, the exchange rate flexibility that I explained before, as a shock absorber. There is a shock outside, so the country changed the exchange rate, or the market changed the exchange rate to absorb the shocks. And communication is important. The central bank to explain to people what is going on. This is because of this, because of that, and this is also very important. And we are also working with the authorities in that area. Okay, so in this kind of background, as maybe everybody knows, we have now a program with the authorities that remains valid in the sense that the strategy that is there, the fiscal policy, the monetary policy, the structural reform, remain valid, and it's a 3-year program. It was approved in March in 2014, and we are now implementing it, and it's on track. This is a little bit of the same idea, so I'm going to go fast here. Of this idea, I think that we are trying to convey this message that the focus should be, now there is a forthcoming membership of the Eurasian Economic Union, so try to get the best from there, but also continue working with the European Union, because the European Union is the largest trading partner of Armenia, so you cannot forget about that, and also involving other trading partners that you can imagine, that could be interesting for Armenia. So it has to be a comprehensive type of integration strategy. Well, this is about the exchange rate flexibility, only to show that Armenia, compared to other countries, is in the middle of a transition. It's a country that has a system that is still managed. It's normal for such a small open economy, and it's moving to kind of a monetary framework that are much modern, like inflation targeting. Look at the other CCA countries are more like in this other part. Georgia is a little bit more advanced. They have inflation targeting, but also they have a little bit more flexible regime. The goal for Armenia to join that club eventually, other emerging markets are to have a much more dynamic economy with a much more flexible and much more modern framework, but this is underway. So, and then I'm concluding, okay? And then we open the floor for questions, because I'm sure you have to ask about the question. So, the conclusion is that growth is slowing down in Armenia, but also in the region. And basically, the main factor is Russia, unfortunately, the negative spillover that we call about Russia. But also because demand is weak in the country, and it's weak because, there are private sector's consideration, but also the public sector, the execution of the budget. The other conclusion is that those countries that have fiscal space, and Armenia is one of those, because the deficit is not that high, then they could take a pause on the fiscal consolidation, and they can kind of improve spending and support the demand in the economy. And also the monetary policy could continue helping by maintaining a neutral stance. Also, everything in a kind of medium-term perspective, like explaining what is the path where the economy is going. Macroprudential has to be a strength, macroprudential for the banking system, as I mentioned before. The third conclusion of this presentation is that potential growth risk to weaken. That's a major concern, not only for Armenia, for the world. And we had to do that by implementing more reform, more ambitious, and that make growth inclusive, and also to improve the policy frameworks, making budget more transparent, for instance. So, and then at the end of the day, the final conclusion is that a new economic model is needed that is based on this structural reform, that to make growth sustainable, more inclusive, diverse. These are the few words that I would like you to keep in your mind after this presentation. And that's it. I think that these are the conclusion, and I've finished. Sorry. It took me a little bit more longer than I thought, but
Thank you very much, Թերեզա. Համեցեք հարցեր, կարծում եմ, որ շատ ունեք.
Լևոն Ղազարյան, from Economic Department. You have showed economic growth perspectives for some groups. Advanced economies, China, et al. But what about the rest world?
Okay. Do you want to collect? Yeah, maybe a few questions. Yeah, and then we.
Դուք խոսեցիք ջինի գործակցի մասին, հա, ես։
Is Armenian?
Իզար։ Եթե կարելի է, եթե ունեք հաշվարկներ, կխնդրեի ներկայացնել Հայաստանում ինչպիսին է պատկերը, հա։ Մենք գիտենք, որ գերբևեռացման խնդիր կա Հայաստանում, եթե քննարկել եք այդ հարցերը եւ խոսեցիք նաեւ ներառական աճի մասին, եթե ունեք մոտավորապես կանխատեսումներ, թե ասենք որ թվականին կարելի է հասնել այդ ցուցանիշին, եթե կարելի է հասնել եւ մոտավորապես մեր բնակչության, հասարակության որ հատվածը կարող է ընդգրկվել ներառական աճի պարագայում։ Շնորհակալություն։
Maybe hot. Եթե չկա, ես հարցեր շատ եմ։ Իմ հարցերից մեկը ճիշտ է դուք շատ բան տվեցիք արդեն, բայց ներկազարգացումները հատկապես փոխարժեքի հետ կապված։ Okay, then I can go with English. No translation will be needed for you. Okay. Փոխարժեքի վերջին զարգացումները նկատի ունեմ կենտրոնական բանկը հավաստիացնում է, որ դա գնաճային շատ մեծ ներուժ չի պարունակում։ Այդուհանդերձ մենք ունենք նաև հսկայական արտաքին պարտք, որը մարելու համար այդ փոխարժեքի փոփոխությունը, ներկա փոփոխությունները բոլորովին նպաստավոր չեն։ Եվ ես կուզենայի, որ դուք եթե ունեք որևէ գնահատական կամ քննարկում Արժույթի միջազգային հիմնադրամի ներսում ավելի պրոֆեսիոնալ, ապա ինչպիսին են ձեր կարծիքները, ինչ ուղղությամբ այնուամենայնիվ Հայաստանի տնտեսությունը ինչքանով եւ ինչ ուղղությամբ կազդվի ներկայիս զարգացումներից, ասեմ ավելին, նկատի ունենալով, որ ԱՄՆ-ի եւ եվրոպական երկրների տնտեսական բլոկադան Ռուսաստանի նկատմամբ այդքան էլ շուտ չի դադարի, հավանաբար այդ Ռուսաստանի տնտեսական անկումը էլ ավելի մեծ ազդեցություն կարող է ունենալ Հայաստանի տնտեսության վրա, ինչպես եք դուք այդ ամենը գնահատում, ինչպես եք տեսնում եւ ինչ կերպ դրա դեմ կարելի կլինի պայքարել։ Շնորհակալություն։
I would like to ask you which is the main risk that Armenia will face regarding this Eurasian Economic Union. As I can predict, we will not have many foreign investments from Russia in Armenia regarding this Russian situation, and also how can we escape the mistake that post-Soviet Union countries made during Soviet times, not diversifying the economies and also having so strong economic relations with very little countries that after the collapse of Soviet Union the whole economies were ruined, and maybe we will have some these risks regarding this union, and I would like to know your opinion. I am listener from Regulatory Guillotine Program of Armenia, maybe.
Maybe, thank you. Okay, maybe I can start answering this. These are very good questions and very important. Yeah, I mean, about the other countries, I mean, I agree with you that this was a very kind of summarized view of a much more global and complex picture, because the world is, I mean, there are 186 countries member of the IMF, no? So unfortunately, we had to summarize a little bit the broad picture. But what is going on is that, I mean, for instance, in emerging markets, I focus on China and Russia, but there are certain regions like Latin America that I know very well because I worked there before, that is systematically doing very badly, no? Because all of these structural reforms that I mentioned before are not happening, and so these countries are like, you know, growing at 1-2%. Of Brazil, that is a huge economy, super dynamic, it's not picking up. This is a major concern. So all Latin American region, And Asia is doing what India is very dynamic. Vietnam, no, South Korea, no, they're very successful story. But the other countries are struggling, no, like much more less developed, like Cambodia or I don't know. I mean, there are different type of situations there. And then Japan, I didn't mention that, I should have mentioned Japan is a major large economy, although they are a small little island, but it's not doing very well. I mean, I don't know, you saw in the newspaper recently, they have revised downward the growth projection for Japan very recently. So the picture is much more complex, but and I think it's a little bit of reinforcing the message. Global economy not doing that great, and a very heterogeneous pictures, different countries with different type of speed. Yeah. Other questions are about the Gini index. I mean, the Gini index for Armenia. I mean, I should have mentioned because we have this information. Actually, it was last week. There was a presentation, but there is a very important inequality. And I mean, they have this. All of the information in the web page. I mean, I can't give it to you, but it's more rich there. No, you can see also what happened in the rural areas versus Yerevan by different type of segment of the population. For this.
If you don't object, then the presentation we could share with the participants.
This presentation, sure, definitely.
Left the email addresses in the list of registration.
Yeah. But the question was about what is going on in Armenia. Armenia has a problem with inequality, that's for sure. And this is a concern. What to do to address this? Not only growing, because the country has been growing a lot, and we still have problems with inequality. Why? Because I mean, there have been maybe a transformation from an economy that was too focused on construction. Construction is very intensive in labor. No, so employ a lot of people. Now the country is transitioning to another economy with construction has to get much less important, and other industries have to be. So in this transition, some people are maybe left behind. So this is why we don't see that impact. This is one hypothesis. We need to look at that in more detail. So what else to do? Growing social programs to support the poor, family benefits, education, support to small and medium enterprises. So there are many instruments that they're already in place. So what we have to do is to use them and to strengthen them to make growth more inclusive. No? What else? We have the more difficult question. Eurasian Economic Union and exchange rate. That's very tricky and important. So I think that I mean, how we see the situation is that, I mean, this transition is happening in the exchange rate. We see that. It's happening everywhere. But then the point here and the main difference in the case of Armenia is that fortunately, I think that because Armenia did a good job before, in terms of micromanagement, inflation is low. Because when country has to, or the evaluation of the currency to adjust to a new situation, a new equilibrium, and inflation is high, then there is a challenge there, because always there is some kind of pass-through from a higher prices in drams to the for people. So, for instance, Russia. Let's look at Russia. Russia is now in the middle of a very important devaluation. Well, maybe on 20%. I don't know. The numbers are very enormous. Russia has a huge inflation as well. So what that means that the inflation is high, meaning prices are changing very, like from 8%, 9%. No, it's a huge inflation. No, Armenia is beyond that. No, it's belong to the past. No, so in Russia, inflation is high, and the ruble is devaluating. So meaning prices in ruble in the markets are increasing. So they have these two kind of the compound adjustment. Here in Armenia, thank God, inflation is low. The fiscal policy is not putting a lot of pressure, but it's not good because we know that. But so far, less is helping. It's helping. So it's good. It's create a situation that is favorable for the country to transition towards this new equilibrium. We don't see any major problem. I think the central bank also has been very, very clear about that. So and then we see that as something that is an environment that is more favorable for this type of transitions. There are other implications. You are right. External debt would be a problem. But we look at that at the funds. We have actually I will recommend you to look at our latest report. It was produced before the summer, but you have there what we call a stress test. So when we look at the debt of Armenia, public and external is important. The public debt is 40% of GDP, and the external debt is 70%. It's huge because the private sector needs to borrow a lot. We always look at this debt dynamic. What happened with this dynamic? There are shocks. The shock could be growth, a huge increase in interest rate, and exchange rate. That's the three items. No? So when we look at that, we see that Armenia stay in a situation that is relatively comfortable. There's room to handle these shocks. Why? Well, because the debt is important, it's true, but especially in the public sector, it's a debt that comes from the past, so it's highly concessional, meaning that has a very long term, 30 years, this long with the World Bank and with all of this, So that means it's a long-term debt. Interest rates are favorable because remember that Armenia was a low-income country until very recently, so was able to get loans at very, very good conditions. So the stock of debt has some kind of characteristic that made that debt more manageable. So in that sense, we see that as a certain kind of, not that preoccupation. The question, and I think it's very important that you ask this question. The question is, for the future, meaning medium term, meaning that Armenia, it is true, not right now, but is transitioning towards a middle income country.
If the report is rewritten,
Sorry?
If the report is rewritten, then how the estimations will be changed?
Yeah, no, sure. No, but in this no, but the important thing that in this report you see the stress test that we did that include even larger depreciation. What is happening now, the depreciation is not that large. I mean, how much is it? Having, I don't know, but we do a stress test of 30%. I think is the one that we do. 30% is a huge. No, in this sense, is okay. It's a shot that Armenia could handle. So now we are very far from this stress test. This is why it's important to look at in June, because now one of the risk is happening. I mean, the exchange rate flexibility in a much more larger amount that we use in the stress test. Stress tests are like a hypothetical situation that we believe are not going to happen, but you had to test what will happen with the number, and so we see comfort in that, and then what is happening now is this is now, but Armenia is moving to a different type of financial envelope for the future, because it's a country that's growing, is getting. They have this Eurobond in 2013. In the future, Armenia will become like an emerging market, like other countries in other regions. And then in the future, that will be a problem. In the future, when you get
gap between the nominal and real exchange rate now is.
So sorry, what's the question?
The potential exchange rate and the nominal exchange rate. The gap is very small. We shouldn't expect further depreciation of Armenian dram?
Well, this is difficult to say because this is markets needs to and what happened in Russia. There are many factors that are playing now. So far we saw the ruble depreciating and the dram has to follow suit, and the markets has to find the new point. Yeah, and Russia may continue moving or not. And the U.S., as I said, is strengthening. The U.S. dollar could strengthen even further, but it's a good thing because it means that the U.S. is growing and there will be some kind of business coming from there. So this is a process that is I don't know exactly how it's going to evolve, but this is very important. Is that this is a process that has to be handled in a way that is. Orderly, that is transparent, that everybody knows what is going on, and this is something that most countries experience, So, yeah.
By and large, no reason for suicide.
I don't think so. Yeah. No, I mean, I understand that the exchange rate is a very important parameter in Armenia. All of the countries are small, exposed to the world, dollarized. I mean, this is very common to other countries, so it's a big deal. I understand people are concerned. So this is why it's important to communicate this type of policy that what the central bank is doing. And They are monitoring the situation. They have the tools to kind of handle this. So this is not like as I said, all the countries are in the same process, because this is the important thing, that the exchange rate flexibility is a tool that Armenia has to protect the economy from these shocks. Because I explained, help to maintain the value of remittances in drams. Because actually people are sending ruble, that when they translate that in drams, it's less and less. So the exchange rate had to adjust, because exchange is happening in ruble, in the ruble market in Russia. So it's in that sense it's consistent. And then, but I understand that sometimes it's difficult for people to have the broad picture, because it's very complex. This is why I'm trying here to help, to kind of provide this kind of broad picture. So, but you have more questions. The sanctions, no? You have the sanctions. This is also, it's a very tricky question. They always ask me a lot about that. Sanctions, I mean, we are against. I mean, they're negative. It's definitely not to escalate. So now, as long as anything affects Russia, affect all the countries that are Russia. That's a reality. The sanction has been very focused, targeted to some companies, to some individuals. So, when they put together, they try to minimize the impact. But it's difficult to really ring-fence this impact. There will be some impact to others. And the situation for Armenia is that is the opportunity to increase export to Russia. And this is a reality. The Russian Economic Union to make a kind of increase the presence, the penetration in the Russian market. But others are going to do the same thing. Georgia said so. We have to be kind of very ready to do that quickly. But on the other hand, we have to be careful that supply in Armenia is also increased, because if there's no increase and the apricots, the wonderful Armenian apricots, go to Russia, then we're going to have higher prices in the supermarket. So there are opportunities and challenges everything. No? So this is how we see the sanction issue. Eurasian Economic Union. Yeah, this is a very important question. And this is something that this year, since the decision in September last year, in 2013, that when the authorities announced this intention, we have been monitoring that very carefully, because they're having a lot of, unfortunately, uncertainty, because there's a lot of negotiation going on, what the final conditions of membership and so on and so forth. I think that now, we know now what is going on, at least. We have a treaty, it's public, we are looking at it, it's through like a more clear, what is the framework. And on the other hand, we also believe that on the side of the European Union, in the beginning, was a surprise, because there was a certain kind of agenda in one direction, and there was sudden change to another direction. There was kind of confusion. But I think also on the European Union, my impression from discussion with them, also there is a more clarity about what they are willing to do with Armenia. So the news or picture that is coming create opportunity for Armenia. Why? Because you have now this Eurasian Economic Union that has the elimination of custom clearance with Russia that could expedite trade with Russia. This is an opportunity for Armenian exporters that they know very well the Russian market, to go there and to increase penetration. If they're importing now $300 million, why not $400 million? This is nothing from the Russian market. It would be a huge deal for Armenia, so this is an opportunity. The second is that this exclusion in the tariff, that is a very important item, because you know that the tariff in the union are much higher, around 7-9%. Armenia, by joining the union, in principle, was supposed to increase the tariff. And the tariff in Armenia are low, because Armenia is a very open economy. So that was a tension, there was a tension there. The treaty established a very large volume of exclusion for a long period of time for many products. That means that people that are now importing from Germany, for instance, machinery or whatever, they don't have to change and to import from another country or think about, because they can continue doing what they are doing. There are not going to be changes in the tariff. They can continue applying the Armenian tariff, whatever it is. This is very important, because they are not going to be, we don't see that will be major trade diversions. The people need to reassess all of their business plan. This is very important for kind of stability and for continuity on what is going on. So this was a second element that we were kind of concerned at the beginning. And the other element is this participation of Armenia in the pool of custom duty in the union. That's also, I think, is very interesting from the financial point of view. As you may know, the union is a huge machinery of importing goods, basically because of Russia, but also the other countries. And tariffs are high, so they get a lot of money. It's almost 26 million of US dollar, huge amount of money. When a country becomes a member of the union, there is this pool of money, it's basically collected in the Russian border, has to be shared with the countries. No? So Armenia in the treaty of that pool, that implied, I mean, for Russia this is nothing, 150 billion or something like that is the estimation, but for Armenia these are very important resources. $150 million is very important. So this is another kind of positive element of this Russian economic union. $2 million per year. No, to my knowledge. I mean, so we're having, no, you read the treaty, I mean, these are the three elements that come out from the thing as before, because of the exclusion, plus this participation in the pool. There is no, this is not our understanding from reading the treaty and from our discussion with the authorities. So these are the elements that we see now in the picture. Opportunities, plus any opportunity in life comes with some risk, because going this way also increase the exposure of Armenia to the Russian economy that we see. There is a good thing, because Russian economy is a phenomenal economy, 140 million people, so there is a huge market there for Armenia. But when you expose yourself to a certain country, doesn't matter, Russia, whatever, you get more kind of dependent on what happened there. So this is the opportunity and risk. But the other block that I think I want to mention is that European Union, after 1 year of discussion, they have realized that remaining engaged with Armenia is very important. So now there are some discussions about, there's not going to be an association agreement and free trade agreement. This is out of the picture, but there is another type of partnership. They are still figured out. They are still working on what will be the final name, but there will be some kind of framework for continuation of collaboration with Armenia. That, I'm talking now on behalf of the European Union, you should ask them, but my understanding is that budget support will continue, which is very important. Budget support provided by the European Union in many sectors, education, justice, etc. Technical assistance, that also is very important. Open sky policy, I think this is a very important element that the Armenians should try to get a good deal with the European. What that means, liberalize the possibility for European carrier, and especially low cost, to come here to Armenia, bring a lot of tourists. This is something that is now under discussion, and there are a lot of opportunities there. So if everything goes well and the Armenian authority work very well their cards, there are these two blocks that continue to provide opportunities for Armenian economy. Okay, good.
Thank you very much. Any other question? Last chance.
Last chance. Is English or Armenian?
Yeah, English.
English, good.
Okay, so I'm representing, I'm from but
okay, good.
I have a question. You mentioned in midterm policy priorities from monetary side to have greater exchange rate flexibility. Could you just elaborate on this more and more in practice what?
Here, because the economy is highly dollarized, because of the level of financial literacy in the population, because of the capacity of the population to get hedged, to go to the bank and asking for an insurance against the exchange rate. You can't do that anywhere in the world. Here it's more difficult, it costs money. So there are many reasons why this fully floating is not there yet. But it will happen at some point, because other countries have passed through this way as well. So that's what I mean. Armenia is still in this group. As you can see, there are different type of arrangement: conventional peg, stabilized arrangement, crow-like arrangement. Different countries have different type of management. In the case of Armenia, how we classify Armenia is that It's a system in which the exchange rate is determined by market forces, no doubt about that. But because it's important, it's a small market. You may have a shock that makes things get crazy and are temporary, and then so the central bank has tools and has a responsibility to kind of dump this kind of erratic and excessive volatility. But this is only like a punctual moment. In general, the idea is that the exchange rate, as the price of anything, is determined by market forces. This is more or less the situation. But as I say, eventually, because I have seen that in other countries, so Armenia will move to this group, in which is fully free-floating with the inflation targeting. That means that the exchange rate will be there, but the focus will be on inflation. That is the prices that matter. Inflation is the prices that, prices of things are what matter, not necessarily the exchange rate. But it's a transition, it's a process. Good?
Okay. Շատ շնորհակալություն։
Շնորհակալություն to you։
Ձեր ներկայության, ձեր հարցերի համար։ Որպես կազմակերպչական ուզում եմ ասել, որ մենք մի քանի օրինակ ունենք այն զեկույցից, որից որ քաղվածքները, բայց պիտի խնդրեմ, որ վերցնեն առաջնահերթորեն այն անձինք, ովքեր որ համալսարաններն են ներկայացնում, իրանց գրադարանների համար վերցնեն։ Եթե դուք էլի օրինակներ ունեք, do you have more copies to share if there are interested people?
No,
you don't.
One second. No, 1 second, but one second.
հասանելի է online.
It's online, exactly. It's online on our webpage. It's at the end of the. Sorry. Here. So you go to.
Մենք այս պրեզենտացիան ձեզ կուղարկենք, դուք կարող եք էլեկտրոնային տարբերակը նաև տեսնել։ Թույլ տվեք ձեր բոլորի անունից շնորհակալություն հայտնել։
No, thank you very much.
Դաբան Սանչեսին։ Քալուն պրեզենտացիա։
Thank you.
Անիչին կասես գաշ։